Every single day, you're bombarded with information, news articles, opinions, advertisements, arguments, and most of the time, you don't even realize how much of it you accept without question. Now, here's the truth: the ability to pause, to analyze, to question, to step back, that one skill changes everything. It's called critical thinking, and it's not just for philosophers or scientists. It's for you, right now, in your everyday life. Think about it. How many times have you shared an article without reading it? Or believed something because it sounded convincing, even if you never checked if it was true? That's not thinking, that's reacting. And in a world this noisy, reacting isn't enough. But here's the exciting part: critical thinking isn't about being cynical or doubting everything. It's about learning to see clearly, to separate fact from spin, to notice when emotions are clouding your judgment, to ask better questions. And when you learn this skill, you make better choices. You become harder to manipulate. You discover confidence because you know how to think for yourself. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you paused before making a decision and asked yourself, what am I really basing this on? Most people never do. But that pause, that one small moment of awareness, that's where critical thinking begins. Critical thinking is like stepping back from a painting. Up close, all you see are messy brushstrokes. But when you step back, the full picture appears. Suddenly, what felt confusing or overwhelming begins to make sense. I want you to imagine two versions of yourself. Version 1 goes through life on autopilot, believing what they hear, reacting instantly, swept away by emotion and noise. Version 2 takes a breath. They pause, they think, they ask, what's really true here? What matters most? Which version do you think will make better choices? Which version will create a life of clarity, confidence, and fulfillment? And that's what this video is about. Together, we're going to break down critical thinking into practical steps you can start using right now. Here's the roadmap. 1. First, we'll uncover what critical thinking really means. 2. Then, we'll expose the hidden assumptions that sneak into your thoughts. 3. Next, we'll explore the balance between emotion and logic. 4. After that, you'll learn how to ask better questions, the kind that unlock deeper truth. 5. We'll put it all into real-life examples so you can see how this skill works every day. 6. And finally, we'll show how critical thinking connects to fulfillment, because clarity doesn't just help you think, it helps you live. So if you've ever felt overwhelmed by information, if you've ever doubted yourself because the world feels too complicated, if you've ever wished for more clarity and confidence in your choices, this is the skill that changes everything. Welcome to Critical Thinking. Let's dive in. Chapter 1. What critical thinking really means. When you hear the words critical thinking, what comes to mind? Maybe you picture a professor in glasses stroking their chin, or some complicated debate full of big words. Or maybe you just think, sounds boring. But here's the truth: critical thinking isn't some academic buzzword, it's a life skill. And Once you really understand what it means, it's like flipping on the lights in a dark room. Most people move through life reacting, believing whatever they hear first, letting emotions call the shots, making choices without slowing down. Critical thinking is the opposite. It's the ability to stop, to step back, and to really see what's happening before you decide what to believe or what to do. Let's put it simply, critical thinking means not taking things at face value. It means asking, is this true? What's the evidence? What assumptions are hiding here? It's not about being negative. It's not about doubting everything. It's about looking deeper, like a detective searching for clues. And here's the key difference. Intelligence is about how much you know. Critical thinking is about what you do with what you know. Think of it like this. You could memorize hundreds of facts, but if you can't tell which ones matter or which ones are false, you're lost. Critical thinking is the compass that guides you through the information jungle. So, what does it look like in real life? Imagine you're offered a new job. One part of you feels excited, more money, new title. Another part feels uneasy, longer hours, more stress. Without critical thinking, you might just chase the money. But with critical thinking, you pause, you step back, you ask, what do I really value? What's the evidence this will make me happier? What assumptions am I making? And suddenly, the decision becomes clearer. Not easier, maybe, but clearer. Critical thinking shows up everywhere. When you're deciding who to trust, when you're choosing how to spend your time, when you're listening to someone you disagree with. It's not just about school or work. It's about living with clarity instead of confusion. And here's the good news. Critical thinking isn't something you're born with or without. It's a skill, which means it can be practiced, strengthened, sharpened. The more you use it, the more natural it becomes. And soon, you'll notice you're not getting trapped by every opinion or overwhelmed by every choice. Instead, you'll feel steady, focused, clear. So, when we talk about critical thinking, here's what we really mean. It's not being critical. It's not being negative. It's not being the smartest person in the room. It's the art of slowing down, of asking better questions, of seeing the bigger picture before you act. And once you get that, once you see critical thinking as clarity instead of complexity, you're ready for the next step, uncovering the hidden assumptions that shape your thoughts without you even realizing it. That's where we're headed next. Chapter 2, Uncovering Hidden Assumptions. Here's a question. Have you ever made a decision that seemed completely logical, only to realize later you were missing something? That missing piece? That's usually an assumption. Quiet, invisible, and often running the show without us even noticing. Assumptions are like invisible walls in our thinking. They shape what we see, what we believe, and what choices we think are even possible. The tricky part? We almost never notice them. We treat assumptions like facts, and that can keep us stuck. Take relationships. Someone doesn't text you back right away, and Suddenly you assume they're mad or they don't care. But maybe their phone died. Maybe they're just busy. The assumption feels true in the moment, but it's not the whole story. And if you don't catch it, it can spiral into overthinking, resentment, or even bad choices. That's what assumptions do. They tint the way you see the world, and you don't even realize you're wearing the glasses. Critical thinking starts by noticing those glasses, by asking, wait, what am I assuming here? And is it actually true? This matters because assumptions don't just shape your inner world, they shape how you treat people. If you assume your coworker isn't pulling their weight because they're lazy, you get frustrated, maybe even hostile. But if you pause and ask, what else could be going on? You leave space for truth, empathy, and better decisions. Think of your mind like a courtroom. Assumptions are often treated like hard evidence without ever being cross examined. Critical thinking is what calls them to the stand and asks the tough questions. And here's the catch: some of the most dangerous assumptions aren't about others, they're about ourselves. I'm not smart enough. I'll never change. People like me don't succeed. These hidden beliefs can run your entire life if you don't stop and question them. But once you shine a light on them, everything shifts. So, how do you uncover assumptions? Here are two simple practices. 1. Ask what else could be true. Whenever you catch yourself jumping to a conclusion, pause. Imagine three other possible explanations. It opens your mind instantly. 2. Flip the assumption. If you think, I'll never get this job, flip it. What if I am qualified? What if they're actually looking for someone like me? Even if it feels uncomfortable, the exercise shows you the assumption isn't fact. It's just a story you've been telling yourself. Uncovering assumptions is like sweeping a spotlight across your mind. At first, it feels awkward. You'll catch one or two. But the more you practice, the more clearly you see what's been shaping your choices all along. And when you can see your assumptions, you can challenge them, replace them, free yourself from them. That's when critical thinking really starts to change your life. So far, we've talked about clarity, what critical thinking is, and how assumptions can cloud it. But there's another big piece: emotions. Because let's be honest, most of our decisions aren't just about logic, they're about feelings. And in Chapter 3, we'll explore how emotions can hijack your thinking and how to work with them instead of against them. Chapter 3: How Emotions Affect Thinking. Have you ever noticed how different your choices look depending on your mood? One day you're confident, everything feels possible. The next, the same challenge feels overwhelming. That shift, that's not the facts changing, it's your emotions. Emotions are powerful lenses. They can sharpen your thinking or completely distort it. When you're calm, feedback feels like growth. When you're anxious, it feels like criticism. Same situation, two totally different realities, depending on the emotion. Think of your mind like a window. Awareness is the glass. Emotions are the weather outside. When the weather is calm, you see clearly. When the storm hits, anger, fear, jealousy, the view gets distorted. And if you don't notice the storm, you mistake the distortion for truth. That's how emotions hijack thinking. A single anxious feeling can turn into a dozen imagined stories. And before you know it, you're reacting to your emotions, not to reality. It's not that emotions are bad, far from it. Emotions give us energy, motivation, direction, but when they're driving the car alone, they can take us places we didn't mean to go. So, how do we work with emotions instead of being ruled by them? Critical thinking offers a few simple moves. 1. Name it. When you feel a strong emotion, pause and give it a label. This is anger. This is fear. This is excitement. Naming creates distance. You're not in the storm, you're observing it. 2. Check the facts. Ask, what do I know for sure? And what's my emotion adding? This clears out the stories your mind is spinning. 3. Wait before reacting. Emotions feel urgent, but most decisions aren't emergencies. Even a 5-minute pause can turn an emotional reaction into a thoughtful response. Think of it like waiting out the weather. A storm can feel endless, but if you wait a little, it passes. Your mind clears, and then you can act from clarity instead of chaos. That pause might not feel dramatic, but it can change everything. A single breath before reacting can save a relationship, a job, even your peace of mind. And here's the good news: emotions aren't enemies of critical thinking, they're partners. When you're aware of them, emotions tell you what matters most. Fear points to where you need safety. Anger points to where you need respect. Joy points to what fulfills you. Emotions aren't problems, they're signals. Critical thinking helps you read those signals without being ruled by them. So far, we've uncovered hidden assumptions and seen how emotions shape our choices. But there's another sneaky influence we haven't touched yet: biases. Those mental shortcuts that feel like common sense, but can quietly steer us in the wrong direction. In Chapter 4, we'll break down how to spot your own biases and what to do about them. Chapter 4: Biases, the mind's shortcuts. Have you ever wondered why two people can see the exact same event and walk away with totally different conclusions? That's not just personality, it's bias. And here's the surprising part: bias isn't just something other people have. You and I, we all have them. Biases are like filters on a camera. They color the way we see the world, often without us even noticing. Instead of seeing things as they are, we see them as our brain expects them to be. Here's why. Every second, your brain is bombarded with way more information than it can process. So, to save energy, it takes shortcuts, mental rules of thumb. Most of the time, these shortcuts are useful. They help you make quick decisions, like knowing not to touch a hot stove or trusting a red light means stop. But sometimes those shortcuts backfire. That's when bias shows up. Bias shapes who we trust, who we doubt, what we notice, and what we ignore. Maybe you assume the tall, confident speaker is more competent, even if their ideas aren't better. Or maybe you only read articles that confirm what you already believe. That's bias at work. Think of bias like tinted glasses. You don't realize you're wearing them, but they color everything you see. And the danger is you mistake the tinted view for the truth. That's a bias too. It's called the availability bias. Once something is on your radar, your brain highlights it everywhere. It feels like the world changed, but really, it's just your perception. So, what can you do? How do you outsmart your own biases? Here are three simple tools you can practice right now. 1. Pause before you judge. The moment you notice a strong reaction, positive or negative, ask yourself, what's influencing this? Am I reacting to facts or to my filter? 2. Seek a different angle. Ask someone you trust. How do you see this? Fresh perspectives help you notice blind spots. 3. Challenge the pattern. If you keep assuming the same thing about a person or situation, flip it. Ask, what if the opposite were true? That question alone can break the bias. Here's the truth. You can't get rid of bias completely. No one can. But you can catch it, and once you catch it, you get to choose whether to follow it or to step around it. And those small moments matter. Every time you pause, question, or shift perspective, you reclaim a little more freedom from autopilot thinking. That freedom, that's the heart of critical thinking. So far, we've uncovered hidden assumptions, seen how emotions shape our choices, and now, how biases sneak into our thinking. But critical thinking isn't just about spotting problems, it's about building solutions. In Chapter 5, we'll explore the power of asking better questions and how the right question can change everything. Chapter 5. The Power of Better Questions. Have you ever noticed that the quality of your answers depends on the quality of your questions? Think about it. When you ask shallow questions, you get shallow answers. But when you ask deep, thoughtful questions, doors open. Here's the difference. Will this be on the test? Is a survival question. It's about getting by. But how does this matter in real life? That's a growth question. It sparks curiosity, connection, and deeper understanding. Asking better questions is like digging. Shallow digging, you find pebbles. But if you keep going deeper, you discover treasure. Critical thinkers know this. They don't stop at the first answer. They ask again and again until the real insight comes through. Questions shape focus. Ask, why isn't this working? And everyone looks for blame. Ask, what can we try differently? And suddenly, people see possibilities. The question changes the conversation. Better questions don't just solve problems, they expand thinking. They help you see angles you would have missed otherwise. So, how do you start asking better questions? Here are three keys you can practice right away. 1. Replace judgment with curiosity. Instead of asking, why am I so bad at this? Ask, what can I learn from this? One closes the door, the other opens it. 2. Go one layer deeper. When you get an answer, ask, what's underneath that? Or, why does that matter? It's like peeling an onion. Each layer gets you closer to the core. 3. Ask possibility questions. Swap can I for how can I. The first assumes limitation, the second sparks solutions. Better questions unlock better paths. They don't guarantee an easy answer, but they guarantee growth, clarity, and momentum. Here's a challenge for you. Think of one problem that's been bothering you. Got it? Now, pause this video. Write down 3 different questions you could ask about it. Not answers, just questions. When you come back, notice how even the way you see the problem has shifted. That's the magic of better questions. They don't just solve problems, they expand your world. So far, we've uncovered assumptions, balanced emotions, spotted biases, and now discovered the power of asking better questions. But what do you do with all of this? How do you bring it all together into daily life? That's what we'll explore in our final chapter: how to put critical thinking into practice. Chapter 6: How to put critical thinking into practice. We've explored the tools: uncovering assumptions, managing emotions, spotting biases, asking better questions. Now comes the most important part. How do you actually use all of this in your everyday life? Because critical thinking isn't just a skill you learn once, it's a way of living, a way of approaching challenges that changes everything. Most of us live on autopilot. We react instead of respond. But critical thinking is about creating a tiny pause between stimulus and response. That pause, that breath, that's where clarity lives. So the first step to practicing critical thinking is this: pause before reacting. When something frustrates you, surprises you, or even excites you, take a breath. Ask yourself, what's really happening here? Without the pause, you react. With the pause, you choose. You can decide, am I reacting emotionally? Am I seeing only one angle? What assumptions am I making? That pause is the gateway to critical thinking in real life. Here's a toolkit you can carry into daily life. 1. Question first impressions. When you meet someone or hear an idea, ask, what else could be true? 2. Zoom out. Look at the bigger picture before making a judgment. Ask, how does this connect to what I already know? 3. Check emotions. Notice when strong feelings are guiding your decisions. Ask, is my reaction clouding my reasoning? 4. Reflect daily. At the end of the day, ask, where did I think critically today? Where did I miss the chance? Reflection grows. Awareness. Critical thinking isn't just for debates or classrooms. It shows up in small choices every single day. It's in the way you read a headline, the way you decide who to trust, the way you talk to someone you disagree with. That one pause, the choice to think instead of react, can prevent misinformation, save relationships, and lead to better decisions. Let's try this together. Think of one decision you need to make this week. Before you act, run it through these 3 questions. 1. What assumptions am I making? 2. What emotions are influencing me? 3. What questions haven't I asked yet? Notice how the decision feels different after that reflection. This is the heart of it. Critical thinking isn't about being right all the time. It's about being aware, intentional, and open to truth. The more you practice, the more it becomes natural. And the more natural it becomes, the more powerful your life decisions become. Because when you think critically, you don't just react to life, you create it. So now the question is, what will you do with this skill? Because critical thinking truly is the skill that changes everything if you choose to practice it.